did not know that.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Good to be here.
Nice to meet you. Okay. What are we doing here?
We're here to talk about your many achievements.
Achievements?
Oh, I would say achievements. Growing up, listening to your voice.
Oh, cool. Mind if I break out Lil Duke?
Oh, go right.
You guys familiar with Lil Duke?
Oh yeah.
Woo. Okay, so here he is, riding his, yeah, so it's a piece of PVC tubing on the top of a mop handle because it looked like this. I didn't have time to get an Estes model rocket built for this. So Lil Duke will be interviewing you two at some point. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
We'll hold this together after we do the real business.
Now, Jon St, you've been doing voiceover for so many years. Can you talk about some of the games you've done over the years and why they're important to you?
Absolutely. Duke Nukem is the most important one to me because clearly Duke made me famous. That was actually the first game I ever did. And the odd thing about it was I had no interest or even any knowledge that there were voiceovers in video games. In 1994, there weren't any. And just by coincidence, a casting director happened to be in the radio production studio where I worked, and she was doing an automobile dealer ad that I was producing. And she asked me to audition for this game called Duke Nukem, and I laughed when I heard that the first time. I think most people did. First time you heard Duke Nukem, did it make you laugh? They said Duke. And she said, how about auditioning for this thing? I said, sure, okay, I guess that's gonna be something. And I did the game, and God, Duke Nukem 3D had been out for damn near 10 years before I knew anybody even played it or that there was a following. And this fellow from MagFest in Washington, D.C. contacted me on Facebook and asked if I'd come to his convention. And I said, why? He said, you have a lot of fans. I had no idea there were any fans of Duke Nukem whatsoever. So I went to this convention in Washington, D.C., and 800 people showed up for a panel, and I was blown away by it, and I figured, okay, now I got a new career.
Nice.
And since I got to do Duke Nukem 3D, a lot of the young teenage boys who were playing it back then, shake it baby, they became developers. And so today I get a lot of work just because they're fanboys. I get Valve. I get flown up to Seattle every once in a while to do games for Valve. Rather than them letting me record in my home studio, they want to drink tequila with me.
Yes.
So I have an advantage over other voice actors because I've been doing it the longest, I think. And all the nerds who grew up playing the game, who became developers, want me on their games.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I'm lucky.
Let's open the floor to some questions.
I have one. Oh, okay.
That's it.
Charles from Inspire the Muse.
Hey, Charles.
So I was curious, what has the industry been like as it's evolved since the first Duke Nukem game all the way up to the last iteration?
It's gotten a lot better. When I first started back in 94, 95, there was not even a thought of unionizing the voice work for video games. So the first Duke Nukem game, for instance, I think I made maybe 800 bucks. I mean, that's the most famous game I've ever been in, and I got 800 bucks. They made millions off of it. So I guess it's going back 6 or 7 years now since the work became unionized, and now it pays better. And if you're familiar with the strike that happened in the last couple of years, the SAG-AFTRA strike, that's not completely resolved, but at least they have come up with sort of a residual plan where as soon as 500,000 copies of a game sells, you get paid again. Which sounds pretty good, but when you consider, the voice acting that's done for television productions and that kind of stuff, they make far more money. We're still not there yet. And I don't cross the picket lines, but I do not, I'm not a big supporter necessarily of residuals for video games. I think if we're paid one time a decent rate for what they predict the game will sell, that would be fair. But it's gotten better over the years. And it's become a lot easier too. Auditions, you used to have to go to your agent's office or to a recording studio that the casting director was doing, which for me meant a lot of travel because I live in San Diego. Most of the auditions were held in LA, so I'd have to drive that stupid 2-hour drive up the I-5. Today, you record your audition from your studio, send it in, and then just wait. And the auditioning process is nicer too, because back in the day, it's like a cattle call. You're lined up with everybody else, and you go and you start reading. You may be 2 sentences in when the director goes, okay, thank you, next. And that rejection was hard to take. I mean, the first time it happens to you, you feel like crap. Now it's what I like to call silent rejection. So you do the audition, you send it in, and hopefully you hear from them. If you don't, you forget that it ever happened. Which is easier in video games than it is in like commercial production, because this is a weekly occurrence for me. I'll read for a national TV ad, I'll study the script, give it my best read, send it in, hear nothing, 2 weeks later, see it on TV and go, damn, they hired that guy. Which leads me to a voice actor joke. How many voice actors does it take to record a 60-second radio spot?
I don't know.
10. 1 to actually record it, and 9 to go, I could have done it better. That's kind of how we feel. Did I sufficiently answer your question?
Yes,
And I didn't ramble for too long. Okay.
I get a question in the back.
Joe, GameAccess.net.
How are you, Joe?
Thank you. I'm
Good to
very
see you.
Specifically about the future of voice acting. Now, we've seen from guys, particularly you mentioned SAG, Nolan North was talking about this.
Mhm.
He's been doing recently, as well as guys like Troy Baker, of course, digital motion capture along with voice acting.
Mhm.
Now, have you been involved in that procedure as well as just, you mentioned sitting in the booth specifically, but have they asked you or scanned you to do a virtual performance essentially for what would later become either a video game or a 3D movie or something?
Yes, a long time ago. I wouldn't say I was the first to do that by any means, but Sony, who at one time was 989 Studios, maybe you remember that.
Yes.
Their 989 Studios are in Rancho Bernardo, San Diego area where I live. And back in the day, I did, a couple of games. One was NBA Shootout 99, right? And I am the last guy you want to mocap for a basketball game. Come on. But they mocap me for that, and a few projects I've done for commercial work that was animated. They were CG productions. They would put the dots on my mouth and just capture my mouth action and translate that over. Now, as far as lip flap goes in video games and such, they have new software that uses what they call visemes and phonemes. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So it automatically will generate the lip flap based on, they have a camera on your mouth the whole time you're recording. The other difficult part about that is that, when you're acting, they usually have a fairly wide range dynamic microphone and you can move around a bit. Not so if they're doing mocap. You have to stay right exactly in the same place so your mouth doesn't go off camera. I also had an audition, a callback recently for a game that I cannot mention by title. It's a huge title that's being redone, and it's going to be all mocap, and the actors are going to be flown to Tokyo for a week in this October to record that game. And in that I had a callback, I'm hopeful, man. Usually you hear right away and I haven't heard a word, so maybe I wasn't right for it, but I'm hopeful. I'd like to go to Tokyo, never been. Have you?
No.
Would you like to go?
Yes, I would like to.
I have a +1.
I'm
Fingers
there.
crossed, man.
I'm there.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Calvin from Inspire the Muse.
Hi, Calvin.
How you doing? I know you've done radio work for a long time. Do you feel like radio industry is still viable in this day and age?
Not as a career option, hell no. Well, there's two kinds of radio. You got terrestrial radio and you got satellite radio. And unfortunately, they're both pretty much the same these days. I mean, if you're paying a subscription to XM Sirius, well, then you're not forced to listen to too many commercials. But you will notice as you listen that satellite radio is just as bad as far as the music goes as terrestrial radio. There's not a radio station anywhere that plays more than 300 titles, period. That's it. Why do you keep hearing the same songs? They do what's called auditorium testing, where they pay people $50 to come in. They have like 300 people in an auditorium. I've conducted these tests in my radio career. You have 300 people come in, you pay them $50 to rate song hooks. They'll play a 10-second hook of a song, and generally what they're asking is, do you know this song or not know this song? Do you like this song or not like this song? Would you like to hear this song more or less? That's it. And based on that, and they only test 500 songs in an auditorium test, they take the 300 strongest ones and put those on the air, and that's what you hear over and over. Satellite radio is doing the same thing. It's really sad, because when you think of all the music that's out there, and it makes sense from a business standpoint, they can't be all things to all people. If they have a format, you have to stick to it. I mean, you can't play Frank Zappa and ABBA. You can't do that. You're going to lose audience. So you try to fine-tune your format niche to whatever you think will work. But as far as talent in the business, No, it sucks. When I was in radio, I had a good career because I started in 1975, back when it was stacks of 45 records, and on my show, the music was what I chose. And the DJ who came on the year after me, the music on his show was different. Sure, you'd hear a lot of the same songs, but never in the same order. If I didn't like a particular artist, I didn't play it on my show. If I thought the song didn't fit with what I was doing, it was my choice. In 1985, a computer program was written called Selector. And Selector allowed a computer to schedule all of the songs, which made it easier for radio stations to schedule songs on a grid to where you're not repeating too often or what have you. And at that point, the DJs were not picking the songs anymore. And every show became homogenous, the same across, not just from town to town, but all the way across the country. Every radio station plays, for instance, a top 40 or CHR format. They all play the same songs and they sound the same, and many of them have the same DJs because those DJs are in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Detroit, and they're all voice tracking. They're not actually even in your town. But sure, they have the internet, so they can go, oh, weather in Hartford today, it's going to be sunny and 75, and this guy is in frickin' Las Vegas recording voice tracks for $15 an hour. I shit you not. Oh, I'm sorry. It's all they get no benefits. Radio is not a good career for announcers anymore. If you're going to do sales, if you have the shark mentality and you like to sell air, then it's a good career option. But as talent, not at all. The only people making any money anymore are the major morning shows in each market, or Howard Stern, or the satellite guys. But trained monkeys can run the show now. And generally it's all voice tracks, so it's not a really good career option, in my opinion. And that's coming from a guy who did it for 40 years. Radio sucks today. Is that camera on? Radio sucks today. Just wanted to drive the point home. So that's why I got out of radio broadcast altogether about 7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I dabbled in it for a few years. I was on a station in Los Angeles on weekends for a few years because once it's in your blood, it's hard to get it out. But now I've given it up. I found the easiest path to making money, and that's just talking on a microphone.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you.
As we wrap up, John, do you have any projects or any coming games or voiceover work that you want to share with the press?
As far as voiceover work, I'm under NDAs right now. You know how that goes. I can't tell you what the games are. I did just record some more downloadable content for Guild Wars 2, so Axe and Kunkka and those guys are back. Let's see, what else can I tell you about? This is the Police, part 2 was just recorded, so that's out. But I'd rather talk about Conquest.
Go right ahead.
Conquest, it's a web series where I go to, I usually have my crew and a cast of photographers following me around to different conventions around the country. And it is a web series now. There was interest from a network channel for a little while there, but then Con Man, that Alan Tudyk show on Sci-Fi, kind of beat us to the punch. But they're a scripted show. My show is not scripted at all until I do the narration for it, and it's all just wacky adventures we have. And if you guys would like to like the page and follow, some of you will end up on a future episode because I'm going to be filming today, and if Little Duke approaches you, you definitely want to talk to him. You want to talk to Little Duke, don't you?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you do too, don't you?
Yes.
Looks like a big dick coming at you. That's inappropriate. So if you want to check out Conquest with Jon St. John, is Conquest W/Jon St. John. I was stupid and I didn't type the word with. I don't know why, and it's a hassle to change it. But follow that. And also I have I've attended so many cons over the years, I decided it's about time I produced my own convention. So I have a con in February, which is on a cruise ship from Miami to the Bahamas.
Ooh.
It's February 15th through the 18th, so while your weather sucks here in Connecticut next February, you can be thinking about me and my guests who are going along. I've got Ellen McLean, who's GLaDOS from Portal, and she'll be live narrating our laser tag tournaments. Her husband, John Patrick Lowry, will be coming along. He's Sniper, and he and I are going to take fans on a kayaking adventure around Nassau. Todd Habercorn, who's a voice actor in so many video games, I'm sure he's been here a few times. Todd's coming along because he's a personal friend of mine and just wants to party, so he and I are going to go snorkeling with fans. We've got rock climbing walls, movie theaters, an ice skating rink. $90 million refit of the ship just happened, so it's Royal Caribbean's top luxury liner.
Nice.
And under $700 gets you everything, including all the alcohol you can pour down your throat for 3 days.
I'm there, sign me up.
So, okay, it's notcon, NOTCON.us is the website. And I'd love for you guys to come along, get a cabin and party with us. The beauty of it is it happens President's Weekend next February. So the Monday we come back into port at 7 a.m. is a free travel day. You already have the day off from work, especially if you're a government employee. So that I really wanted to push. Thank you for letting me do just that.
No problem. Thank you so much, John.
Thank
Round
you.
of applause.
Oh, stop it! I did, just, for fun. So let me go ahead and put this together real quick and get a little Duke to interview you for a second. You don't mind, do you?
No.
Excellent. There we go. There. Put my hood on. Sorry, this takes a minute. Anybody waiting to get in here for something? Are they? No? Okay, good. I'll just take my sweet time.
All right, ahead. What made you decide to do it on a cruise?
I've never been on a cruise before. I've always wanted to go. And I wanted to do something different from, I've done so many cons over the years, and I'm not saying they're all the same, but if you've been to a lot of conventions,
We're in a room.
they're typically the same. This one will have, in addition to doing a few panels, and I mean very few panels on board the ship, we have all the adventures to do on land each day, whether it's snorkeling and jet skiing, or having the casino on board, and pirate pool parties, which is how we're doing our opening ceremonies. I figured, that's the way to do it. Do it on a cruise ship and have a lot of fun. And
a lot of drinks. Yeah.
and a lot of drinking. Okay, let's see if little Duke is ready. Let me get him lined up here. Open the hood, dummy. Ah, now I can see. Okay, got him off to the side just a little bit. Is his microphone pointing at you?
Yes, it is.
All right. So what made you decide to do interviews like this?
Well, I just have this great voice, and people like hearing me talk, so,
I like hearing you talk. Say my name.
Duke Nukem.
It's Little Duke.
Little Duke.
That's right. And now say hail to the king, baby.
Hail to the king, baby.
Fucking A.
Fuck me in, A.
Oh, you're the man. Wait a minute. Okay, I'll do an edit here. Hand up. Give me 5. Oh yeah. Oh.
That's my
tighten little Duke up a bit. There we go. I gotta find a better way to. I should have hot glued into the thing, right?
Yeah.
But so be on the lookout for little Duke. He's gonna come for you.
Thanks again, John.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Now I'll get out of